Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Welcome to our discussion. Today hari ini kami akan membincangkan satu topik yang sangat penting dalam bidang pendidikan, yaitu tentang integrating culturally responsive pedagogy. As we know, education today is not only about delivering knowledge and completing the syllabus. Pendidikan masa kini juga perlu mengambil kira latar belakang pengalaman, budaya, dan keperluan setiap pelajar. Dalam sebuah bilik darjah, setiap pelajar adalah berbeza. Ada yang datang daripada budaya, bahasa, dan keadaan sosial yang berbeza. For example, in Malaysia, we have students from various ethnic groups such as Malay, Chinese, Indian, Kadazan Dusun, Bajau, Iban, and many more. So, semua pelajar ini membawa pengalaman dan identiti mereka sendiri ke dalam kelas. Therefore, teachers need to understand how to create a learning environment where every student feels respected, accepted, and included. This is where culturally responsive pedagogy or CRP becomes important. This topic is also closely related to sustain to development goal for SDG 4, quality education, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education for all learners. Maksudnya setiap pelajar perlu diberikan peluang yang sama untuk belajar dan mencapai kejayaan tanpa mengira latar belakang mereka. For today, we will discuss 4 main points. First point is we will explain the explanation of culturally responsive pedagogy. Second, we will discuss about strategies for incorporating student cultural background into teaching practice. And third, we will evaluate how culturally responsive teaching affects student motivation and academic performance. And lastly, we will discuss about the challenges teachers may face when implementing this approach. So, without further ado, let's begin first our discussion point. I would like to invite Iskandar to explain what culture responsive pedagogy means, and later Hazrik will continue by discussing its importance in education. So, Chinchan, you may explain first.
Terima kasih Ahmad Airudin. Pertama sekali mari kita fahami apakah itu pedagogi responsif budaya. Pedagogi responsif budaya atau CRP ialah pendekatan pengajaran yang mengiktiraf, menghormati dan menghargai latar belakang budaya, pengalaman, bahasa, dan identiti pelajar. Dalam perkataan mudah, CRP bermaksud guru tidak hanya menumpukan pada pengajaran kandungan mata pelajaran, tetapi mereka juga mempertimbangkan siapa pelajar mereka, dari mana mereka berasal, dan pengalaman apa yang mereka bawa ke dalam bilik darjah. Kadangkala kaedah pengajaran tradisional menggandaikan bahwa semua pelajar belajar dengan cara yang sama. Namun, pada hakikatnya, setiap pelajar adalah unik. Mereka mempunyai cara berpikir yang berbeza, latar belakang keluarga yang berbeza, budaya yang berbeza, dan pengalaman berbeza yang mempengaruhi cara mereka memahami dan bertindak balas terhadap pembelajaran. Sebagai contoh, semua pengajar topik tertentu, guru boleh memasukkan contoh yang mewakili budaya yang berbeza. Di Malaysia, seorang guru boleh menggunakan contoh yang berkait dengan tradisi, makanan, perayaan, atau amalan masyarakat tempatan. Ini membantu pelajar menghubungkan pelajar dengan kehidupan mereka sendiri. Contohnya, dalam kelas matematik, daripada hanya buku teks, guru boleh menggunakan situasi yang pelajar biasa, seperti mengira belanjawan untuk perayaan, membeli belah di pasar tempatan, atau perancangan acara. Apabila pelajar boleh mempelajari pembelajaran dengan kehidupan mereka sendiri, mereka akan lebih mudah memahami konsep tersebut. Selain itu, pedagogi responsif Budaya juga menggalakkan guru mengenali suara pelajar. Pelajar harus merasakan bahwa pendapatan, pengalaman, dan identiti budaya mereka adalah berharga di dalam bilik darjah. Sebagai contoh, pelajar yang bercakap bahasa yang berbeza di rumah tidak sepatutnya merasakan bahwa bahasa atau budaya mereka adalah satu kelemahan. Sebaliknya, guru boleh melihat kepelbagaian ini sebagai kekuatan yang boleh memperkayakan perbincangan bilik darjah. Walau bagaimanapun, pedagogi responsif budaya tidak bermakna guru perlu mengubah sepenuhnya kurikulum. Ia lebih kepada menyelesaikan kaedah pengajaran, contoh, dan interaksi bilik darjah supaya semua pelajar boleh mengambil bahagian secara sama rata. Idea utama ialah budaya harus menjadi jabatan kepada pembelajaran, bukan penghalang. Apabila pelajar merasakan identiti mereka dihormati, mereka lebih berkemungkinan berasa yakin, bermotivasi, dan bersedia untuk mengambil bahagian dalam aktiviti bilik darjah. Jadi, pedagogi responsif budaya bukan sahaja tentang mengikhtiraf perbezaan, tetapi juga tentang menggunakan perbezaan tersebut untuk mencipta pengalaman pembelajaran yang lebih baik untuk semua orang. Terima kasih. Sekarang saya akan menyampaikan perbincangan ini kepada Hasrik untuk menerangkan kepentingan pedagogi responsif budaya.
Thank you, Iskandar. After understanding the meaning of culturally responsive pedagogy, let's discuss why this approach is significant in education. First and foremost, culturally responsive pedagogy helps to create an inclusive classroom environment. In education, every student has rights to study in a positive environment. When students feel respected and accepted, they will develop a stronger sense of belonging. For example, if teachers acknowledge students' cultures and experiences during lessons, students will feel that they are an important part of the classroom. Mereka tidak akan rasa terpinggir atau berbeza daripada pelajar lain. Secondly, culturally responsive pedagogy can increase students' motivation towards learning. Usually, students become more interested when they can see the connection between what they learn and their own lives. If lessons only focus on information that students cannot relate to, they may lose interest. But when teachers use examples that are familiar to them, learning becomes more meaningful. For example, when discussing social issues, teachers can include different cultural perspectives. This allows students to share their own experiences and learn from their classmates. Another important significance is that CRP promotes respect and understanding among students. Malaysia is a multicultural country, so students need to develop the ability to communicate and cooperate with people from different backgrounds. Through culturally responsive teaching, students learn that differences should not be appreciated, not judged. They become more open minded and develop important values such as empathy, tolerance, and respect. From an academic perspective, this approach can also improve students' performance. When students are engaged and confident in the classroom, they are more likely to ask questions, participate actively, and complete learning activities. Most importantly, culturally responsive pedagogy supports the objective of SDG 4, quality education. SDG 4 emphasizes the importance of inclusive and equitable education. This means that education should be accessible to everyone, and no student should be left behind because of their cultural background, language, or personal circumstances. Therefore, culturally responsive pedagogy plays an important role in ensuring that every learner receives equal opportunities to succeed. In conclusion, CRP is significant because it improves students' learning experiences, strengthens relationships between teachers and students, and creates a classroom environment where diversity is valued. Thank you.
Thank you, Iskandar and Nazrik, for the detailed explanation. From our discussion, we can understand that culturally responsive pedagogy is more than just recognizing cultural difference. It is about creating a classroom where every student feel respected, included, and supported. When teachers understand their student background and adapt their teachings approach, learning becomes more meaningful and effective. Now that we have discussed the definition and signification of culture responsive pedagogy, we will move on to our second discussion point. In the next part, Firdaus and Ikwan, we will share the strategies that teachers can use to incorporate student cultural background into teaching practice. In the previous discussion, we learned about the meaning and importance of culture responsive pedagogy. We understood that this approach helps teachers create a classroom environment where every student feels respected, valued, and included. Now, in the next question, is how can teachers actually implement culture responsive pedagogy in their teaching practice. Understanding student cultures is important, but also need practical strategy to make sure cultural diversity become part of the learning process. For our second discussion point, we will explore strategies for incorporating student cultural background and into teaching practice. I would like to invite Firdaus to share some strategies that teachers can apply in the classroom. After that, Ikwan will continue by explaining more approaches and example. Okay, Firdaus, can you share some strategies?
Thank you, Hairudin. When we talk about incorporating student cultural background into teaching practice, the main idea is that teachers need to understand and appreciate the diversity that exists among their students. One of the first strategy that teacher can apply is by using culturally relevant teaching material. Maksudnya, teacher should choose learning material that represent different culture, experience, and perspective instead of using example from only one particular culture. Teacher can include example from various communities. For example, in an English lesson, teacher can use story, article, or example from different cultural background. In Malaysia, teacher can include local stories such as traditional legend, community experience, or example relate to Malaysian culture. This allows students to see themselves represent in the learning material. Bila pelajar nampak bahawa budaya dan pengalaman mereka dihargai dalam pembelajaran, mereka akan rasa lebih connect dengan lesson. Another strategy is connecting lesson with student real life experience. Teachers should not only focus on textbook knowledge but also relate learning to situations that students experience in their daily life. For example, in mathematics, teacher can create questions based on local situations such as shopping at market, planning celebration, managing expenses, or calculating ingredients for traditional food. Through this example, students can understand that what they learn in school has a connection with their everyday life. Selain itu, teacher can also use collaborative learning activity. Group discussion and group projects are effective ways to encourage students from different backgrounds to work together. When students collaborate, they have the opportunities to share ideas, experience, and perspective with each other. For example, during a group project about culture, students from different backgrounds can share information about their tradition, language, or food. Through this interaction, students learn to appreciate different and develop respect toward others. Another important strategy is creating a classroom classroom environment where students feel safe to express themselves. Teachers should encourage students to share their opinion, personal experience, and cultural knowledge without fear of being judged. For example, students can be given opportunity to talk about their family tradition, local community, or cultural practice. This creates a two-way to learning process where not only students learn from teacher, but teacher also learn from students. In conclusion, incorporating student cultural background does not require teacher to make huge change. Sometimes, simple actions such as choosing inclusive example, listening to students, and connecting lesson with their experience can create a big impact on learning. Thank you. Now I will pass this discussion to Ikwan to continue with more strategy.
Oke, terima kasih Firdaus. Saya bersetuju bahwa guru memainkan peran penting dalam menjadikan bilik darjah lebih responsif terhadap budaya. Selain menggunakan bahan dan aktiviti pengajaran yang sesuai, satu lagi strategi penting ialah membina hubungan yang kukuh dengan murid serta keluarga mereka. Sebagai guru, kita tidak dapat memahami murid sepenuhnya jika kita tidak mengenali latar belakang mereka. Oleh itu, guru perlu meluangkan masa untuk memahami budaya, nilai, minat, dan keperluan pelajaran setiap murid. Sebagai contoh, setengah murid mungkin mempunyai gaya komunikasi atau tahap keyakinan yang berbeza disebabkan latar belakang budaya mereka. Dengan memahami perbezaan ini, guru dapat memberikan sokongan yang lebih baik serta mengelakkan salah faham. Satu lagi, strategi ialah mengamalkan komunikasi yang inklusif di dalam bilik darjah. Guru hendaklah menggunakan bahasa yang sopan dan menghormati semua budaya serta mengelakkan stereotip ketika membincangkan kepelbagaian budaya. Guru juga perlu memastikan setiap murid mempunyai peluang yang sama untuk mengambil bagian dalam perbincangan dan aktiviti. Sebagai contoh, apabila membincangkan topik budaya, guru tidak seharusnya menggambarkan satu budaya sebagai lebih baik daripada budaya yang lain. Sebaliknya, guru perlu menekankan bahwa setiap budaya mempunyai keunikan dan nilai tersendiri. Selain itu, guru boleh menganjurkan aktiviti yang dapat meningkatkan kesedaran budaya. Sebagai contoh, sekolah boleh mengadakan sesi perkongsian budaya di mana murid memperkenalkan tradisi, makanan tradisional, pakaian, musik atau sambutan perayaan mereka. Namun begitu penting untuk difahami bahwa pedagogi responsif budaya bukan sekadar meraihkan perayaan. Tujuan lebih mendalam adalah untuk membantu murid memahami makna, nilai, dan perspektif di sebalik budaya yang berbeza. Melalui aktiviti ini, murid dapat mengembangkan kemahiran sosial yang penting seperti empati, rasa hormat, dan penerimaan terhadap orang lain. Teknologi juga dapat menyokong pelaksanaan pengajaran yang responsif terhadap budaya. Pada masa kini, guru menggunakan berbagai alat digital seperti Canva, Google Classroom, quiz, video pendidikan, dan sumber dalam talian untuk memperkenalkan murid kepada berbagai budaya di seluruh dunia. Sebagai contoh, murid boleh menonton video tentang komunikasi yang berbeza, membincangkan amalan budaya, dan berkongsi pendapat melalui platform dalam talian, serta memberi peluang kepada murid untuk meneroka berbagai budaya melengkapi pengalaman mereka sendiri. Satu lagi strategi yang penting ialah amalan refleksi guru secara berterusan. Guru perlu menilai semua amalan pengajaran mereka dengan bertanya soalan seperti, adakah saya memasukkan berbagai perspektif dalam pengajaran saya? Adakah semua murid berasa diwakili dan dihormati? Adakah kaedah pengajaran saya sesuai untuk murid daripada berbagai latar belakang? Melalui refleksi, guru dapat menambah baik pendekatan pengajaran mereka. Secara keseluruhan, pengajaran yang responsif terhadap budaya adalah tentang memastikan setiap murid berasa mereka diterima dan mempunyai tempat dalam bilik darjah. Ia juga bertujuan mewujudkan persekitaran pembelajaran yang melihat perbezaan bukan sebagai masalah, tetapi sebagai peluang untuk belajar. Apabila guru berjaya mengintegrasikan latar belakang budaya murid ke dalam pengajaran, murid akan lebih berminat untuk belajar, lebih yakin terhadap diri sendiri, dan lebih bersedia untuk hidup dalam masyarakat yang berbagai. Terima kasih.
Thank you Firdaus and Ikwan for sharing those valuable strategies. From this discussion, we can see that culturally responsive pedagogy can be applied through many simple but meaningful practice using diverse teaching material, connecting connecting listen with student experience, encourage communication, building relationship, and creating an inclusive environment. Some of the way teachers can support diverse learners. That strategies not only improve classroom interaction but also contribute to the goals of SDG 4, quality education, where every student deserves equal opportunities to learn and such. Now we will continue with third discussion point. In the next part, Ashrik and Iskandar will discuss the effect of culturally responsive teaching on student motivate and academic performance. In this previous section, we will discuss several strategies that teachers can use to integrate student cultural background into the teaching practice. We learn that small changes in teaching method can create a more inclusive and meaningful learning environment. Now we will move on to our third discussion point, which focus on the effect of culturally responsive teaching and on student motivation and academic performance. The main question we want to explore is how does culturally responsive pedagogy influence student willingness to learn and their achievement in education? To discuss uh, top, this topic further, I would like to invite Ashrik to share his view on the impact of culturally responsive teaching on student motivation. After that, Iskandar will continue by explaining its effect on student academic performance. Okay, Ashrik, can you share the view?
Thank you, Ahmad Hairudin. When we talk about student motivation, one important factor that influences learning is whether students feel connected and valued in the classroom. Culturally responsive teaching helps to increase students' motivation because it creates a learning environment where students feel that their identity, culture, and experiences are recognized. Sometimes, students may lose interest in learning when they feel that the lessons are not related to their lives. Mereka mungkin rasa pembelajaran hanya berkaitan dengan buku teks dan peperiksaan sahaja. However, when teachers include students' cultural backgrounds in lessons, learning becomes more meaningful. For example, if a teacher uses examples related to students' communities, traditions, or daily experiences, students can easily understand that connections between the lessons and their own lives. This creates a feeling of belonging. Bila pelajar rasa mereka diterima dan dihargai, mereka akan lebih yakin untuk participate dalam kelas, bertanya soalan, dan berkongsi pendapat. Besides that, culturally responsive teaching can also increase students' confidence. Some students may be quiet or less active in class because they feel their background is different from others. But when teachers create an environment that respects diversity, these students become more comfortable expressing themselves. For example, a student who comes from an indigenous community may feel proud when their culture is included in classroom discussions. Instead of seeing their background as something different, they begin to see it as a valuable contribution to learning. Another positive effect is that students develop a more positive attitude towards education. They understand that learning is not only about achieving good grades, but also about understanding themselves and others. Through culturally responsive teachings, students also learn important values such as respect, empathy, teamwork, and acceptance. These values are important because education is not only preparing students academically, but also preparing them to become responsible members of society. In conclusion, culturally responsive teaching improves students' motivation by making learning more relevant, meaningful, and connected to students' identities. When students feel respected and included, they are more likely to engage actively and develop a positive attitude towards learning. Thank you. Now, I will pass the discussion to Iskandar to explain how culturally responsive teaching affects students' academic performance.
Terima kasih Ashrik. Selain meningkatkan motivasi, pengajaran responsif budaya juga dapat meningkatkan prestasi akademik pelajar. Apabila pelajar bermotivasi, mereka lebih aktif menyertai pembelajaran seperti perbincangan, pertanyaan soalan, dan menyelesaikan tugasan ini. Membantu mereka memahami pelajaran dengan lebih baik, bukan sekadar menghafal. Selain itu, pendekatan ini mengambil kira keperluan pembelajaran setiap pelajar. Guru menggunakan pelbagai kaedah seperti bahan visual, perbincangan kumpulan, aktiviti praktikal, dan contoh daripada kehidupan sebenar supaya semua pelajar dapat belajar dengan lebih berkesan. Pedagogi responsif budaya juga membantu membina kemahiran abad ke-21 seperti berkomunikasi, pemikiran kritis, kreativiti, dan kerjasama. Melalui aktiviti berkumpulan, pelajar belajar menghormati pandangan orang lain dan bekerja sama dengan rakan daripada pelbagai latar belakang budaya. Walau bagaimanapun, kejayaan pendekatan ini bergantung kepada guru. Guru perlu merancang pengajaran dengan lebih baik dan memilih strategi yang sesuai mengikut keperluan pelajar. Dari perspektif SDG 4, pendidikan berkualiti pedagogi responsif budaya membantu memastikan semua pelajar mendapat peluang pembelajaran yang sama tanpa mengira latar belakang mereka. Kesimpulannya, pendekatan ini bukan sahaja meningkatkan motivasi dan pencapaian akademik, malah membantu pelajar yang lebih yakin, berkemahiran, dan bersedia menghadapi masa depan. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you for Ashrik and Iskandar for that interesting discussion. Based on what we have discussed, culture responsive teaching has many positive effects on students. It helps students feel value, increase that their motivation, improve participation, and support better academic outcomes. More importantly, this approach shows that student difference should be not be seen as elimination. Instead, diversity can become a strength that enrich the learning process. However, although culturally responsive pedagogy provide many benefits, implementing it in real classroom may also come with challenges. Therefore, in our final discussion point, Ikwan and Firdaus will discuss the potential challenges in implementing culturally responsive pedagogy in how these challenges can be addressed. Okay. Although this discussion we have discussed the meaningful of cultural responsive pedagogy, the strategies teachers can apply and its positive effect on student motivation and academic performance. However, even though culturally responsive pedagogy provide many benefits, implementing this approach in real classroom is not always easy. Teachers may face several challenges that can affect the effectiveness of approach. So for our final discussion point, we will discuss the potential challenges implementing culturally responsive pedagogy and how these challenges can be overcome. I would like to invite Ikwan to share some challenges that teachers may experience. After that, Firdaus will continue by explaining possible solution and recommendations. Okay, Ikwan, can you share some challenges?
Thank you Ahmad Airudin. Apabila melaksanakan pedagogi responsif budaya, antara cabaran terbesar yang mungkin dihadapi oleh guru ialah kekurangan pengetahuan dan latihan. Walaupun ramai guru memahami kepentingan menghormati keberadaan budaya, tidak semua guru menerima latihan yang mencukupi tentang cara mengaplikasikan strategi pengajaran responsif budaya dengan berkesan. Kadangkala guru ingin memasukkan unsur-unsur budaya ke dalam pengajaran mereka, tetapi mereka mungkin tidak mengetahui kaedah yang paling sesuai untuk melakukannya. Tanpa pemahaman yang betul terdapat kemungkinan guru secara tidak sengaja menimbulkan salah faham atau menggambarkan sesuatu budaya secara tidak tepat. Oleh itu, persediaan guru dan pembangunan profesional adalah sangat penting. Satu lagi cabaran adalah keterbatasan sumber pengajaran. Setengah guru mungkin menghadapi kesukaran untuk mendapatkan bahan yang sesuai bagi mewakili berbagai budaya. Banyak buku teks dan sumber pendidikan hanya memberi tumpuan kepada perspektif tertentu, sekaligus menyukarkan guru untuk menyediakan pengajaran yang benar-benar inklusif. Sebagai contoh, guru mungkin perlu meluangkan lebih banyak masa mencari contoh tempatan, cerita budaya atau bahan yang mewakili murid pada latar belakang yang berbeza. Selain itu, kekangan masa dan tuntutan kurikulum juga boleh menjadi satu cabaran. Di sekolah, guru perlu menamatkan sukatan pelajaran dalam tempo yang telah ditetapkan. Kadangkala mereka merasa bahwa memasukkan aktivitas atau perbincangan berkaitan budaya memerlukan masa tambahan yang tidak mereka miliki. Akibatnya, setengah guru lebih memberikan tumpuan kepada menyiapkan kandungan berbanding mewujudkan pengalaman pembelajaran yang responsif terhadap budaya. Cabaran seterusnya ialah mengurus bilik darjah yang terdiri daripada murid dengan latar belakang yang berbeza. Setiap murid mungkin mempunyai kepercayaan, gaya komunikasi, dan keutamaan pembelajaran yang berbeza. Guru perlu mengimbang perbezaan ini sambil memastikan setiap murid menerima perhatian dan peluang yang sama rata. Sebagai contoh, sesuatu aktiviti pengajaran yang berkesan untuk satu kumpulan murid mungkin tidak semestinya berkesan untuk murid yang lain. Oleh itu, guru perlu bersikap fleksibel dan peka terhadap kepelbagaian semasa merancang pengajaran mereka. Akhir sekali, setengah guru mungkin menghadapi cabaran yang berkaitan dengan prasangka atau andaian pribadi mereka sendiri. Kadangkala seseorang mempunyai kepercayaan atau tanggapan yang tidak disadari terhadap budaya tertentu. Oleh itu, guru perlu sentiasa membuat refleksi terhadap sikap mereka sendiri atau terus meningkatkan kesadaran budaya bagi memastikan layanan yang adil kepada semua murid. Kesimpulannya, walaupun pedagogi responsif, budaya ini mempunyai banyak manfaat. Pelaksanaannya yang berjaya memerlukan pengetahuan, persediaan sumber yang mencukupi, serta amalan refleksi yang berterusan daripada para penyelidik. Itu saja, terima kasih. Sekarang saya ingin menyerahkan sesi pembicaraan kepada Firdaus untuk menerangkan bagaimana cabaran-cabaran ini dapat diatasi. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Ikhwan. There are challenges in implementing culturally responsive pedagogy. The challenges can be addressed through proper support and commitment from teachers, school, and community. First, schools should provide continuous professional development and training for teachers through workshops, seminar, and teacher collaboration programs. Educators can learn more about cultural awareness, inclusive teaching strategy, and how to design lessons that support diverse learners. Dengan latihan yang mencukupi, teacher will become more confident in applying culture responsive approach in their classroom. Secondly, schools should encourage teachers to share resources and collaborate with each other. Instead of each teacher working alone, they can exchange ideas, teaching materials, and experience. This collaboration can help teachers create better learning activities that represent different cultures. Another important solution is involving parents and community in the education process. Parents and community members have valuable knowledge about their culture, tradition, and experience. Teacher can work together with them to gain a better understanding of student background. For example, school can invite community members to share cultural knowledge, traditional practice, or personal experience with students. This can create a stronger connection between school and the community. Technology can also help overcome resource limitation. Teacher can access various online resource, digital platform, and educational material from different cultures. These tools can make lesson more interesting and provide students with a wider perspective. However, while using technology, teachers should always evaluate whether the information is accurate and respectful toward different culture. Besides external support, teachers also need to practice self-reflection. Teachers should continue continue ask themselves, am I creating an environment where every student feel included? Do my teaching material represent different perspectives? Am I giving equal opportunity for all students to participate? By reflecting on this question, teacher can improve their teaching practice and become more culturally responsive educator. Overall, implementing culture responsive pedagogy requires teamwork between teachers, schools, student, family, and community. It is not overnight process, but with continued effort and commitment, school can create classroom where diversity is celebrated and every student has the opportunity to success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wan and Firdaus, for sharing those important points. As we come to the end of our discussion, we can conclude that culturally responsive pedagogy plays an important role in creating inclusive and meaningful learning experience. Throughout our discussion, we learned that this approach involve recognizing to and respecting student cultural background, adapting teaching strategies, and creating a classroom environment where every learner feel valued. We also discussed that culture responsive teaching can improve student motivation and confidence, participation, and academic performance. More importantly, it helps students develop respect, empathy, and understanding towards people from different backgrounds. Third, although there are challenges in implementing this approach, such as limited training, resource, and time constraints, this challenge can be overcome through teacher development, collaboration, community involvement, and continuous reflection. Ultimately, culturally responsive pedagogy support the goal of SDG 4, stand for quality education by ensuring that education is inclusive, equitable, and accessible for everyone. Before we end today our discussion, we would like to thank you everyone who is listening and follow our discussion. We hope this discussion has provided a better understanding of the importance of culturally responsive pedagogy and how it can contribute to a better education system. Thank you for listening and see you. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.